He cornered me after hours, when everyone had gone home and the office lights hung low. My supervisor, Mr. Callahan, was leaning over the whiteboard, pretending to show me campaign revisions. The sterile scent of marker ink filled the air, a sharp contrast to the sudden, invasive smell of whiskey on his breath when he turned. He was too close. His hand brushed my shoulder, a casual touch that quickly became a grip. It wasn't violent, but it was proprietary. "You want to move up, right, Elena?" he whispered, his voice a low rumble that made my skin crawl. I nodded, my throat tight. I'd worked so hard, aced grad school, stayed late every night. This was the moment ambition and fear collided. When his other hand reached for the top button of my shirt, I froze. My brain screamed move, scream, run, but my body was paralyzed, trapped by the terrifying calculus of power. His fingers fumbled with the fabric. Then, a sharp, echoing knock on the glass door. "Security." Callahan recoiled instantly, smoothing his tie, his expression shifting back to boss in a terrifyingly fluid motion. "Late night, Brooks. Get some rest," he said, his voice casual. I fled, but I never told anyone what really happened, not yet. Because the real nightmare started the next morning. The next morning, the office buzzed like nothing happened. Keyboards clattered, the espresso machine hissed, a soundtrack of corporate denial. He smiled at me in front of everyone, holding out a fresh cup from the high-end machine. "Elena, cream, 2 sugars. Knew you'd be dragging after our late-night session," he said, the picture of a thoughtful mentor. I laughed it off, a high-pitched, brittle sound that wasn't mine. I pretended I wasn't shaking inside, my fingers cold as I gripped the warm cup. That's what women do, right? We survive quietly. We paint on a smile, fix our blouses, and get back to the spreadsheet. We swallow the humiliation and call it professionalism. But when he called me my girl during the morning briefing, gesturing to me as he spoke to the entire department, I felt something inside me snap. It wasn't loud, just a tiny, seismic fracture in my composure. That was the first crack in my silence. I stared at the projected numbers on the screen, but all I could see was his hand reaching for me. And I knew, deep down, that cracks, when ignored, always spread. I went to HR that week, hands trembling so badly, I spilled coffee on my blouse right before the meeting. I sat across from Melinda, the head of people operations, in her sterile glass office. She smiled too much and listened too little, her eyes flicking to her monitor as I spoke. I relayed the incident, my voice small, feeling foolish. "He smelled of whiskey," I whispered. He tried to unbutton my shirt. Melinda steepled her fingers, her smile tightening. "Elena, Mr. Callahan has been a pillar of this company for 15 years. He's known for his robust mentorship style." She leaned in, her tone dripping with corporate concern. "Are you sure you didn't misread his mentorship? Sometimes, ambition can make us misinterpret signals." I walked out, the blood draining from my face, feeling humiliated and profoundly gaslit. I heard her heels click behind me on the polished floor like a metronome of betrayal. That day, I realized the office protects its predators, not its victims. The system wasn't broken. It was designed this way. So, I decided to start protecting myself. And I started with one small, dangerous idea. Callahan started playing his game publicly now, emboldened by HR's inaction. He'd call me into meetings and praise my dedication with a hand that rested just a little too low on my back. Colleagues laughed, thinking it was harmless flirting, the kind of casual power play that defined our office culture. "Elena's my right hand," he'd boom, squeezing my shoulder. I'd smile, a rictus of professionalism, while my skin crawled. He knew exactly what he was doing, making me look complicit. He was performing his innocence for an audience, painting me as the special one who enjoyed the attention. If I pulled away, I was an ungrateful prude. If I stayed silent, I was a willing participant. So I started documenting everything. I bought a small, plain notebook and kept it in my bag. Every word, every touch, every mentorship. Invite after 6 p.m. Date, October 10th. Time, 4:32 p.m. Location: Conference Room B. Witnesses: Mark and Sarah. Action: hand on lower back. I didn't know it yet, but my revenge had already begun. And soon, I'd have the first piece of proof he couldn't erase. Every message he sent me, I saved. I created a hidden folder in my personal email, labeled training material. The irony gave me a dark, sharp pleasure. There were hundreds of texts, Slack messages, and emails. You looked beautiful today. That color suits you. Don't tell anyone about our late meetings. Keep it between us. I'm the only one who sees your real potential, Elena. Reading them all together made my stomach twist, a nauseating cocktail of fear and validation. Each message was a small digital violation, a piece of his calculated grooming. But I kept going, methodically screenshotting, forwarding, and timestamping everything. I was no longer a victim trapped in the moment. I was an archivist building an exhibit. My fear was slowly calcifying into cold, methodical rage. I was collecting the bricks he was throwing at me and building a fortress. And soon, I'd make him his own exhibit. I was so focused on my own collection that I didn't realize someone else was also collecting data. But I wasn't the only one watching him closely. He started acting like I was the problem, a classic predator's reversal. During a large team meeting, I challenged one of his budget figures. He laughed, a loud, patronizing sound that filled the room. "Careful, everyone," he announced. "Elena bites when she's nervous." The team laughed nervously, their eyes darting between us. My ears burned with a humiliation, so hot it felt like a fever. He was painting me as unstable, emotional, difficult. Afterwards, as we filed out, he brushed past me and whispered, "See? No one would believe you. They all think you're high-strung." That was the moment I stopped feeling scared and started feeling strategic. I smiled back at him, the kind of smile that hides a plan. It was the first genuine smile I'd given him in weeks, sharp and full of teeth. Because I finally believed myself, completely and irrevocably. My word was enough for me. I just didn't know yet that it was also enough for someone else. And someone unexpected believed me too. There was one person who noticed, Derek from IT. He was quiet, the kind of guy who kept his headphones on and just blended into the beige cubicle farm. He'd seen Callahan's after-hours meetings through the office camera logs. He'd seen the pattern. One night, he pulled me aside by the vending machines, his expression serious. "You're not crazy, Elena." He deletes footage. I stared at him, my heart hammering. "What?" "Callahan," Derek said, his voice barely a whisper. "He puts in requests to wipe the hallway cams near his office. Says they glitch. But they don't glitch. He's erasing his tracks. I've been pulling the raw data before he can." That single sentence lit a fire in me. "You're not crazy." Derek became my silent accomplice, the first person who made me feel sane again, the first person who saw the monster behind the mask. He didn't just offer sympathy, he offered proof. And he knew exactly where Callahan's digital skeletons were buried, hidden deep in the company servers. We just had to dig them up without getting caught. It was black, small, and looked harmless, like any of the 1,000 drives floating around the office. But inside it, screen recordings, timestamps, and recovered audio from the hallway cams. Everything Derek had painstakingly recovered. We watched one clip together in his car, parked in the last row of the garage, the engine off. The timestamp read 8:47 p.m. It was that night. The clip showed Callahan waiting outside my office door, pacing, checking his watch. He looked impatient, annoyed. He looked like a predator waiting for prey. I wanted to throw up right there on the dashboard. It was visceral, seeing the objective truth of what I had only experienced through a lens of fear. Derek just nodded, his face grim. "He waited for you. He knew you were alone." I closed the laptop, the small USB drive heavy in my palm. Instead of crying, I smiled. Because evidence has no emotion, only power. And I was done feeling powerless. Now I had something worth more than fear, leverage. I started noticing patterns. Every meeting, invite came after 6 p.m., always when he smelled faintly of that same expensive whiskey and ego. He thought it made him charismatic, It just made him sloppy. I began accepting his invites again, but this time, I wasn't prey. I was a hunter. My phone was always in my pocket, the voice recorder app running silently. "You're working so hard, Elena. You deserve a reward," he'd say, leaning against the doorframe of my office. One night, he stared at my blouse. "Why do you always wear white, Elena?" he asked, his voice thick. He traced the air near my shoulder, a gesture that was almost a touch. I looked him straight in the eye, my heart a cold, steady drum. "Because stains show," I said, my voice flat. "You can't hide them." He laughed then, a sharp, surprised sound, not knowing I was already recording. He thought I was being witty. He didn't know I was warning him. But that night, emboldened by my lack of resistance, he crossed a line I couldn't ignore. A month later, he tried again. Same spot, same board, same toxic, whiskey-laced smirk. He called me in for urgent revisions. The office was empty, but this time I let him talk. I let him say every manipulative word he wanted, my phone recording silently in my hand. "You've been distant, Elena. We used to have such a good connection," he slurred, stepping closer. I had his voice, his tone, his slurred breath, all on tape. When he leaned in close, pinning me against the cold porcelain with his body, I didn't move away. I didn't freeze. I just looked him in the eye and whispered, "You should stop now." He laughed, a low, arrogant sound. "Stop what?" "Working hard." And when he didn't stop, when his hand moved from the whiteboard to my waist, I pressed stop on my recording. I had him. That audio clip, his clear proposition, and my clear refusal, would later break his career. I had what I needed to break him. But first, he tried to break mine. He gave me a poor performance rating for attitude. It was the classic, subtle retaliation that HR always ignores. He read from his notes in a flat, corporate monotone. "Elena has become resistant to feedback and displays a combative attitude during team collaborations." It was masterful gaslighting, turning my defensive posture into an offensive weakness. I smiled through the entire meeting, nodding, even taking notes. "Thank you for the feedback, Mr. Callahan. This is very helpful for my growth," I said sweetly, my voice perfectly steady. He leaned back, satisfied, thinking he had finally broken me, that he had documented me as the problem. Inside, I was already writing his resignation letter. He just didn't know it yet. He had given me his weapon, and I was about to use it against him. Because this time I wasn't going to HR. I was going to the board. And I knew exactly how to make him expose himself to them in a way he never saw coming. I started talking quietly, carefully. I approached another junior woman in marketing, one I'd seen flinch when Callahan entered a room. "Weird question," I started. "But does Mr. Callahan ever stand too close?" Her eyes filled with tears instantly. "He touched my waist," she whispered. He blocked the door. It wasn't just me. It was a pattern. We formed a silent sisterhood, whispering in bathroom stalls, sending encrypted Slack DMs, meeting in the parking garage. One woman from finance, two from sales, a former assistant who'd quit without explanation. Each story was sickeningly similar. The late-night invites, the implied threats, the casual, violating touch. We were his private hunting ground. My singular case of harassment became a class action conspiracy of silence. Each story added another match to the pile, each testimony another gallon of gasoline. We had an arsenal now, not just a single bullet, and I was ready to strike the match that would burn his kingdom down. All I needed was the right spark. He offered me a promotion, the one I had been killing myself for. But it came with a condition. "It's a big step up, Elena," he said in his office, the door pointedly open. "It will require more intensive, one-on-one mentorship. After hours. To make sure you're ready." I looked him in the eye, my face a mask of grateful ambition. "That sounds amazing, Mr. Callahan. I'm 100% committed. Could you send me that offer in writing? Just the details of the promotion and the mentorship plan, so I can show my family?" He hesitated, his eyes narrowing. He knew it was a risk, but his arrogance was blinding. He thought I was finally playing his game. That night, He sent a vaguely worded email about personalized career development and necessary evening strategy sessions. I smiled when it arrived. He thought he was being clever, but he had just documented his own quid pro quo. He had just handed me the missing piece, because now his trap was documented. And soon it would be flipped. That email became the final nail in his coffin. Derek and I sent the USB's contents anonymously to the company's board of directors, bypassing HR entirely. We used a burner email from a public library's computer, routing it through 3 different servers.
No trace.
The subject line was simple: a pattern of misconduct, J. Callahan. The file contained everything: the video logs, my audio recordings, the promotion, email, and 3 other anonymous, typed testimonies from the Whisper network. Then we waited. Within a week, rumors started swirling. The board is flying in for an emergency meeting. Legal is interviewing people. Callahan began pacing around the office, red-faced, snapping at assistants over coffee orders. He looked like a man haunted, checking over his shoulder, his usual swagger replaced with a raw, vibrating paranoia. He knew something was wrong, but he didn't know who had done it. He looked at me, at Sarah, at every woman on the floor with suspicion. He was desperate for a target, until he found the wrong person to blame. When HR called an urgent ethics investigation meeting led by an external legal team, everyone knew it was serious. Callahan was there, pretending to be calm, but the sweat on his upper lip doesn't lie. He tried to frame it as a personal misunderstanding, a disagreement over mentorship style. He was charming, apologetic, and utterly believable to anyone who hadn't seen the evidence. But the external investigator, a shark in a pinstripe suit, wasn't smiling. "We have an audio recording from one such misunderstanding," she said coolly. And then they played his voice from my phone. "Why do you always wear white, Elena?" His slurred words. My flat reply: "You should stop now."
His laugh.
The room went dead silent. The only sound was the ventilation system. He looked at me, his face pale, his eyes wide with betrayal and pure, unadulterated rage. I didn't look back. That silence was my victory lap.
He was exposed.
He was finished. But he wasn't going down without a fight. He was suspended within 24 hours. The official memo cited a leave of absence, effective immediately. The company tried to hush it up, but leaks have a funny way of spreading in a digital world. Someone posted snippets of the anonymous testimonies on a corporate whistleblower site. The story got picked up by a tech industry blogger. The comments section burned with outrage. I worked with him at his last company. He did the same thing. He cornered my friend at the Christmas party. His name, James Callahan, trended for all the wrong reasons. It was a digital execution, justice in real time. His carefully crafted reputation was immolated in a matter of hours. I watched the fire burn from the safety of my cubicle, feeling a strange, cold vindication. He was gone. The monster was gone. I could finally breathe. And then came the email that made my blood run cold. People avoided eye contact with me at work. I was radioactive. I'd hear the whisper stop when I walked into the break room. Some colleagues looked at me with a new, quiet respect. Others, mostly his allies, looked at me with open disgust. "She's the one who took him down," I heard one manager mutter. "She probably wanted attention," another whispered by the copier. "Ruined a man's life." I didn't care. I ate lunch at my desk, put my headphones in, and focused on my spreadsheets. I had become the physical embodiment of the company's dirty laundry, and no one wanted to be near it. But the truth doesn't need applause, just consequences. And Callahan was finally facing his. I had my peace. I had my safety. The office could whisper all it wanted. I was fine. I was healing. Until he tried reaching out to me directly. He emailed me a week later from a personal Gmail account I didn't recognize. The subject was Elena. My blood froze. "I'm sorry if I ever made you uncomfortable," he wrote. "My mentorship style can be intense, and I see now that it could be misread. I am getting help."
If.
That tiny, insidious word. He wasn't sorry for what he did. He was sorry I was uncomfortable. He was sorry he got caught. I didn't respond. My hands were shaking, but not with fear. With rage. I saved the email as a PDF. I forwarded it straight to HR, the legal team, and the external investigators with a simple note. FYI. This contact is unwelcome. For the first time, HR had nothing to say. No, are you sure? No, let's discuss. Just a curt thank you. We are handling this. The predator was begging for mercy, still trying to manipulate the narrative. But karma wasn't finished with him yet. Months later, the company restructured. The VP who replaced Callahan was a no-nonsense woman from our Chicago branch. She called me into her office. Your performance metrics are outstanding, Elena. And frankly, this company owes you. I got a new title, Senior Marketing Strategist. It came with higher pay, a team of my own, and a new corner office with a door that locked. The lock felt like the most important part of the package. Derek dropped by with coffee on my first day in the new space. Heard they finally let the girl who bites when she's nervous off her leash, he teased, handing me the cup. We both laughed. It felt good to laugh again, a deep, cleansing sound. It felt like I had finally crossed the finish line. I was safe, respected, and successful. The nightmare was over. Until I got a phone call that changed everything. He left quietly, escorted by security. His termination was finalized a month after my promotion. There were no speeches. No farewell email. He wasn't allowed to say goodbye. He just came in on a Wednesday morning, when the office was quiet, and packed his desk into a single cardboard box. He didn't even look at me when he passed by my old cubicle. I watched him go from my new office, the man who thought he owned me, the man who tried to barter my career for my body. He looked smaller now, diminished, his expensive suit rumpled. As the elevator doors closed on him, I whispered to the empty room, checkmate. The king was off the board. I thought that was the end, but my story wasn't over. Because someone else wanted to talk about him, someone from his past. A woman called me, a shaky voice, whispering my name as if she was afraid to be overheard. Is this Elena Brooks? Yes, I said, guarding my new office door. My name is Sarah. I worked with James Callahan. At his last company. My breath caught. He did the same thing to me. She sobbed, the words tumbling out. Years ago. The hand on the back. The mentorship meetings. I just quit. I thought it was my fault. She'd found me through the leaked story, the details matching her own trauma so perfectly she had to reach out. We talked for hours, crying, connecting, healing. It was like looking in a mirror that showed the past. It hit me then. My revenge had become her rescue. My fight had given her a voice. And it wouldn't stop with just the two of us. A journalist from a major newspaper reached out. Would you like to go on record? We've heard there's more to this story. I hesitated, fear battling pride. Going on record meant my name would be tied to this forever. I wouldn't just be Elena Brooks, marketing strategist. I'd be Elena Brooks, the whistleblower. But then I remembered that whiteboard, that room, that sour-sweet smell of whiskey. I remembered the shaky voice of the woman on the phone, the one who had suffered in silence for years. I said yes. I sat down in front of a recorder, just as I had made him sit in front of mine. And for the first time, I told the whole story from beginning to end, using my full name. Elena Brooks, survivor. Not silent anymore. I felt powerful, in control. I had no idea what was coming. But my name was about to go viral. The company released a press statement the day the article dropped, a polished piece of corporate spin about creating safer work environments. Their PR team painted me as a valued employee who helped uncover misconduct, a champion of our new values. It was the same company whose HR department had told me I was misreading mentorship. The hypocrisy never looked so polished. They were desperate to get in front of the story, to paint themselves as the heroes, not the enablers. But I didn't care about their spin. I didn't need their validation. Because real justice had already happened, in the hearts of the women who messaged me, the women who read the story and finally felt seen, the women who now had a name for their own pain. And that was enough. I had my peace. Until I got a package in the mail with no return address. I got a new office last month. It came with a pristine whiteboard on the wall, shining under the fluorescent lights. My new intern, a young woman fresh out of grad school, asked if she could use it to plan campaigns. She hesitated. I mean, if that's okay. I read the article. She was looking at the board like it was a crime scene. I smiled. A genuine, easy smile. Absolutely. It's just a board. Go for it. But to me, it was something else. Proof that I'd reclaimed my space. It held no power over me. The monster was gone, and he'd taken the shadows with him. No fear left. Just freedom. I sat at my new desk, the one by the window, and looked at the package that had arrived that morning. The mysterious package with no return address. And that's when I opened it. Inside the package was a single, brand new whiteboard marker. Black. No note. I had no idea who sent it. Maybe Derek, as a joke. Maybe another survivor. Maybe even the company, in a bizarre, anonymous gesture. It didn't matter. People always ask if I forgave him. Forgiveness isn't the goal, peace is. And every time I walk past that whiteboard, I remember the night I almost broke and the months it took to rebuild. I don't feel fear anymore. I feel finished. Now, when I look in the mirror, I see a woman who didn't just survive her story, she rewrote it. She took the trauma and turned it into a testimony, a weapon, and finally, a tool. I pick up the new marker and write Q3 campaign launch on the gleaming white surface. And that's the kind of revenge that lasts forever. Because sometimes the best revenge is being impossible to silence.